right, we're here at my Vermihut indoor worm bin, and something a little different. We are right here at the basin because today we are going to rotate all the trays, and I'm just going to build it up from the bottom to show you how I run and manage this Vermihut. So the first thing we put down is this worm barrier, and it's got some little things here, just like Rick at Gardening with Berchucken shows us. And that allows it to fit and stay pretty sturdy in here, and it's supposed to kind of prevent the worms from all gathering down there if it was wet. But the way I run it, we don't have any moisture down there. Now, the very first tray that goes on the stack of this Vermihut worm tower is the new inoculating tray, and inside this tray is just completely dry shredded cardboard. So whatever your bedding is, just put it in completely dry, and we keep it that way because as we build this layers up and we feed the worm bin, the juices and all that kind of stuff is going to seep through all the trays, and this one is going to catch the very last part of it, and it will eventually kind of get a little bit moist while it's down here, and then as it moves up the stack, it's going to get wetter and wetter till it's ready to be the very top tray and get fed. Now, something I also wanted to show you is over here. I've got a little bit of critter damage because I use these trays outside in my outdoor worm bin to be a sifter, and I left them outdoors, and I think the squirrels got to them. So one of the important things is you want to make sure that it is nice and level, because we're going to put a tray right on top of here, and that is the old inoculating tray. And this old inoculating tray used to be the very bottom, and it was the new inoculating tray. And you can see there are little bits of spots that it's gathered some liquid, and that's pretty good, so it did its job. Now, being up here as the old inoculating tray, it is going to get more and more wet. I can feel a little bit over here, just a little bit more moisture, so must have been putting some juicy foods here on the sides. But I'm just going to kind of aerate this and get it a little bit more fluffy before we put the next tray on. So in some of my other videos, you may have heard me talk about moisture, and one of the things we're experiencing right now is our dry season here in Florida, and everything is just less humid. The air, both inside and outside, is less humid. So that's probably another reason why we're not seeing too much liquid down here in this old inoculating tray. So I think we're pretty level, and now we have two trays of bedding. One is completely dry, the one on the bottom, and then we've got this one that is just getting a little damp. And now the next layer, so the third tray up, is going to be the pre-harvest tray. On we go with the pre-harvest tray. Now this tray is going to be here for about 60 minutes, and you are probably the most familiar with this tray because it has been the top feeding tray for about the last 74 days. Usually I rotate it about 60 days. We were a little delayed on this one because we did a lot of traveling, but the last time we were in here, we fed this tray and we gave it some pumpkin guts, a whole banana peel, a whole apple, a pineapple slice, some lettuce stalks and strawberry tops, along with some celery and a mushroom. And we'll just dig around in here and see if we see any of that stuff. But this will be the last time we visit it because it is going to just stay down here uninterrupted for 60 days to try and turn everything into castings. And right here is the apple, and I see a lot of worms on it, and sure enough, check that out. Oh man, almost a worm ball right there. Look at them all. That is fantastic. So apples are kind of a slow food, and if you cut them up, then they kind of get to them, but if you leave them like this, then it takes them a little bit longer. And I did put a hole in it, and I bet you the hole is somewhere around here, and that's how they're getting into it. So this will be interesting. I'm just going to kind of bust it open, help them out a little bit more because I don't want to see any of this around in about 60 days or so. And let's kind of dig more under there because there might have been some more stuff. I know we put some of our long-term food in here. We had some avocado peels and mango seeds, and I want to take those out and I want to put them in the next tray that we're going to have up here, which is going to be our new top feeding tray. So let me just kind of dig around and get some of this long-term food out, and then we'll be right back. This is incredible. There are so many worms in here. I am absolutely loving this. And the hope is that when we put that other tray on it, we're going to put an experimental kind of food and position of that food in the top tray. You'll see what I mean when we get to it. But I think we are going to leave the apple down here. Normally, I guess, make more sense to kind of put the apple into the next top feeding tray, but we're going to leave it down here because I am really excited about this experiment and I don't want to spoil it. These worms are going to do a great job, and hopefully they'll really get excited and go up with that food we're going to put on there. But yeah, look at this. Look at these worms. Some great fat red wiggler and blue worms in here. All right, so same thing, making sure that I level this out. And we're going to take all that food, this long-term slow food, and we are going to put that, like I said, in the next tray. All right, so we are not going to see this tray for another 60 days. And meanwhile, the worms can just eat up everything that's in here and turn it into beautiful castings. So next up is our new top feeding tray. Now, this new top feeding tray used to be the oldest inoculating tray. So nothing has ever been added to this but dry shredded cardboard. And of course, this stuff that I just put right here. So I'm already seeing one worm right there. And you've noticed that the worms have come in here, and this is also kind of wet. If I were to squeeze this, I can get maybe a drop or two of liquid out of here. So because it sat right underneath the pre-harvest tray last time, the worms were much more likely to go in here, especially after it got more and more wet. So you can see there's quite a bit of worms in here. This is really great. So one of the things that you want to do when you bring this old inoculating tray up to be your new top feeding tray is you want to aerate it, because it has been kind of mashed down, which is completely fine. The shredded cardboard right here provides a lot of air spaces, and when it does get moist, it kind of swells up, and then it's able to get mashed down a little bit. But that is completely fine, because you're going to come in here and chances are you're going to want to explore anyway, because you're going to want to see how many worms have come down here. But this is pretty remarkable. There's already castings in here, and we have not even fed it one bit. So this kind of helps you to understand that the worms also eat the bedding, which is why it's so important that you add both carbon, which is, your bedding, and the more nitrogen sources, which is your food. Obviously, animals are made mostly of carbon, so they're going to need a lot of that bedding. And I've heard anywhere from 2 times the volume to 3 times the volume of food you put in should be bedding. So if you put 1 part food, put twice as much bedding or 3 times as much bedding. In general, I try to put about 3 times as much, especially in my outdoor bins like my urban worm bag and my outdoor worm bin. But since these indoor bins kind of already start with this big amount of bedding, I can get away with maybe 2 parts bedding for 1 part food. All right, I'm just going to keep aerating here. All right, so I'm just going to kind of bury in all over the place some of this long-term food, because it may take a couple trays worth, a couple extra 60-day time periods before that gets totally eaten up. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to spread this flat, because even though this is the new top feeding tray and this is where we are going to put our experimental feeding, I still have one more thing to do when I rotate, and that is to get all the worms out of our harvesting tray, the one that was the pre-harvest tray, but now we are going to harvest. I've got to get those worms out of there. And the way that I like to do it is I use the agitation method. So in the agitation method, you put the tray that you are going to harvest on top, and you agitate the worms for about a minute, and then leave them alone for about 15, and they dive down into all the holes that are on the bottom of each one of these trays, and they go to the next level. And then what you do is you come in and you scrape off the top until you get to a layer of worms, and then you agitate them again, and you just keep repeating that until you've got most of your worms down and all your castings out. So let's go ahead and start that. So here is our tray that we are going to harvest. So this is it. This is the tray that has been on here the longest, over 250 days, and this is what we're going to get our new castings from. So you can see it is a little bit more wet than I typically get from maybe the urban worm bag or even my outdoor worm bin, but that's okay, because we are going to agitate it, and we are going to put it in another container when we get all these worms to dive down into the tray below it. And what you can do is just let your castings rest either in your storage, or you can leave them in this tray, put them back in this tray after you get it all out, and then because there's holes in the bottom and you just leave the lid off, we'll go ahead and dry out there in the dry air of your home or even outside. So let me just continue to agitate, let the worms know that this is not a good place for them anymore, and what we're going to do is come back after I've done probably 5 or 6 agitations. So we will see you then. So we finished the agitation method, and check it out. We got 9.958 pounds of castings out of that tray. And as I was kind of taking them out, it did feel like they were drying out. So these castings are looking really good. And here's that tray we just harvested, and you can see all the holes. And what I'm going to do is just kind of rinse this out over the garden to get all these good castings and all that good water that I'm going to rinse it out with into my garden. So now my worm tower is back to having 4 trays, all brand new in their spots. We've got the new inoculating tray, we've got the old inoculating tray, we've got the pre-harvest tray, and now we have our new top feeding tray. And the only thing left is to put some food on it. So what we're going to do, and I hope my plan works, is we are going to take this face of a jack-o'-lantern from one of my sons, and we're going to put it on the top here. We're going to see how long it takes the worms to get on top. So at one point, this was a dinosaur jack-o'-lantern, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it with the skin side down, as I want to see the worms come up on top here. So it was previously frozen. It's mostly thawed, so just going to kind of push it down a little bit. And I think what we'll do is maybe we'll put some amendments here and here and see the worms as they come up and attack this kind of meaty pumpkin.
So cute.
So the plan is to come in here once a day. If we start to see a bunch of action, then we maybe do it twice a day. But with once a day check in for about a minute, we should get some good time lapses of the worms coming up. So this is some worm chow. That's going to be that section right there. Next, we'll just put in some coffee grounds. Let's see how well I can do this. There we go, right there. And then maybe we'll fill in the dino a little bit here with this eggshell grit. I don't know how well I'm going to do this. And then maybe give it a little Mickey Mouse ears since we're here in Florida. So this should be a fun experiment. In fact, let's give you a little sneak peek. This is going to be so cool. I cannot wait to see the rest of the results. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope your worm bins are doing well. So happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.